Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about tactical marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
I read Blood Tides as Blood Titties. I'm sorry.
All right, welcome to the Three Grots World Eaters.
Tony has Blood Titties on the mind.
Blood Titties, Angry Ron, and 8-bound wankers in a pear tree. Did I manage to swear in the first 2 minutes?
I was going to say, this is the best intro we've ever done. So this is not a comprehensive review of the World Eaters because no one's got this book, apart from, actually Brett has this book now, but there's been horrible Games Workshop delays. I still don't have my chapter approved book. So
I'm
Codex.
waiting for the second boarding action Arcs of Omen Angron book.
I have my chapter approved, which I pre-ordered.
Turned up soon.
My first Arcs of Omen book has yet to turn up.
Yeah,
still not got that either. But yeah, anyway.
So stuff is like 2 months behind. So we've got a quick breakdown of what World Eaters has, and I got beat by World Eaters last night, so I think I know what's good. So I guess if you can tell me, you can ask me questions, I should be reasonably knowledgeable. So let's get into it.
Tell us about it because I know shit.
Perfect. Cool. Let's talk about World Eaters then.
If the button that I pressed actually scrolled the thing along. Right. Cool.
So this book actually has 2 types of World Eater armies. You can run the standard World Eaters, or you can run, I forget the name of it, there's a second type, and the second type has to have Angron as your warlord, can only take Chaos Demons, or World Eater Land Raiders, which seems like a very strange combination.
Well, it's not. It makes sense.
The
reason for it is the 8-bound are counted as demonkin.
So they can go in Land Raiders.
So what that means, what it is if you bring Angry Ron, the Angry Ron kind of army, what you're only allowed is Angry Ron, demon-infected World Eaters in Land Raiders, and like Bloodletter bombs.
I see. Okay.
So it's only transport that the 8-bound can get into.
Is the Chaos Land Raiders. Okay. But they both have this same trait, which basically is like at the start of the fight phase, if they make a charge, we're charged, heroic intervention, they get +1 strength and +1 attack. So they are army-wide, very high strength anyway, because most of them are like strength 5. I think like the Berserkers are 5, the Terminators are 5, and then they usually have a weapon that's like +1 strength, then they usually are charged, or I feel like these guys are never going to be in a second round of combat because everything has tons of attacks. So they're pretty much always getting the charge or get charged plus strength. So it's very rare, I feel like, they're hitting you with less than strength 7. So that's my experience from the first game I played against them.
+1 strength is worse than +1 to wound.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also +1 attack as well.
Yeah, all the time, rather than just turn 3 onwards, which is nice.
And their base attacks are so high, Mark. Like, I think Berserkers are like base 5 on the champion, 4 on the other guys, and then they can take 2 weapons, which basically gives them an extra attack. So, like, you're talking, you've got their troop models have like base 6 attacks. They can obviously put some of the things in warp strikes. They can also have demon engines, etc., etc. We won't go too much into that.
So my overview of these is they're basically Blood Angels without the option to play tactically. They're Blood Angels as if they were melee only, and literally they had no possibility of any other dimension than that.
I don't think that's entirely fair. So I've done they are almost Tau-like in their damage is done in the fight phase, but they're almost as fast as Blood Angels, if not in some ways faster. They've got some really clever tricks. Now, they're simplified in some areas, but they're incredibly fast. They hit incredibly hard in melee, and they can do some clever shenanigans to stat buffs up and things like that. So they do have a lot of tactical nous, and they can be quite rewarding for a really good player. But on the other hand, they're a good one in that Blood Angels are in a position at the moment where unless you're shit hot with them, they're really hard to use. Because you've got to play so carefully, because if you start getting your Sanguinary Guard shot at, you're fucked. Whereas these guys, if you aren't perhaps the world's greatest player, maybe just getting into the game or something like that, you can make a list out of, I don't know, the Lord Invocatus and a fuck ton of Berserkers, and it will do a load of damage. But if you're playing against someone you're going to get spanked, you've got to play clever. You've got to use your tools. You've got to use the fact that you can give Berserker something like 20-inch threat range and get them into cover and be doing the same things that we do as Blood Angels, but without fly, you know? So they're not quite as one-dimensional as you might give them credit for.
Yeah, and I mean, last night Brett ran a Hellbrute, which has a multi-melt on it, so it's not... There's a little bit of firing.
You've got a bit of shooting.
Berserkers have bolt pistols now. Go figure. I mean, I don't really know why. I think everyone used to replace them with a second combat weapon, though, right?
I think the 8th edition, one of the codexes let you swap out the bolt pistol, but the model generally has a bolt pistol.
Unless it's got a plasma pistol.
Unless it's got a plasma pistol, but then there's like a couple of spare arms to give them a double chainsword in the pack.
I see.
But it's been arguably more optimal to give them the extra.
I do want one of the new Khorne Berserker models to go on my display shelf of one of every army, because these new Berserker models do look really cool. They look really so well made.
Okay, let's jump into
whatever's next
slide. The Blood Tithe mechanic. So this is a very interesting new mechanic. The mechanic. Oh, you bought Khorne. Oh, cool. That'd be a good way to do it. So each time a unit is destroyed, you gain a Blood Tithe point. That's your army and the enemy's army. At the end of the phase, this is phase, not turn, phase. If any character, monster, or vehicles were destroyed that phase, you gain another Blood Tithe point. At the end of the phase, if any Titanic units were destroyed that phase, you gain a Blood Tithe point. So basically what that equates to is every single model that dies is a Blood Tithe point. And then every phase you get 1 point for a character, monster, vehicle, or Titanic. So typically if like one vehicle dies in the shooting, let's say like you shoot one of their vehicles off in their phase and then you kill one of their things in combat, you know, basically.
Okay, so this is Khorne cares not whence the blood flows, only that it flows.
But it's something you can build around by bringing loads of shitty rhinos and little squads of jackals and things and getting them killed on purpose, because you can very quickly power up your army by doing
in my game last night against Khorne, it was such a bloody game because it was Blood Angels versus Khorne, so everything's getting fighting in melee, everything's dying. I guess we both have about 20 units, so Brett literally had 40 of these points. Now he can spend like, I don't know, let's say he spends 5 Blood Tithe points at the end of the battle until the end of the battle each time a model from your World Eaters makes a melee attack, unmodified, 6s, score 1 additional hit. So the second he gets 5, he spends that, he's got bursting 6s for the rest of the game. He can also do like a Feel No Pain for his whole army, he can also do +1 to charge, I think he can also do improve the AP, and then the cool thing that they can do is they can bring Angron back to life for 6 Blood Tithe points. Bear in mind, the second you kill Angron, that's going to be 1 point for a Titanic failing, and that will also be 1 point for something dying. So that is only realistically, cost 4 points to bring back Angron to life.
Isn't it a character as well?
I think it might.
So I think he might be 3 points if you get him killed.
Maybe that's well, we were playing.
And then when you bring him back, you can deep strike him in.
Yes, of course you can.
So in some ways, what you want to do is you stick him at the back of the field, just out in the open. You don't bother putting him in cover and that, and you're like, go on, kill me.
Is there a limit to how often you can use that during a game?
No. So I killed him 3 times last night. He comes back with 8 wounds, and get this, when he comes back with 8 wounds, he still has 10 attacks, +1 attack on the charge. He is strength 17. He's D3 +3, and either makes 11 attacks hitting on 2s, obviously wounding on 2s with strength 17, or he does the swipes for 33 1 damage attacks, hitting on 2s, and I think they're like strength 12 or something. So like, how do you ignore them? I honestly think we'll see an FAQ where like Reborn in Blood at 6 blood tithe points feels crazy.
That really annoys me. You know why it annoys me?
Why?
Because it should be fucking 8.
Because it's Khorne's number. But I honestly thought, like, after halfway through the game, I was like, fuck, I should just be killing everything else and ignoring Angron. But then how do you ignore someone that's going to come back with, like, 10 D3 plus 3, 11 D3 plus 3 attacks on the charge?
I guess
like,
you try and tie him up as long as you can.
How? I mean, I got nothing that can tank that damage. Like, I got nothing that can tank that damage. I don't think many armies do have anything that can tank.
It's a funny one as well, because if you're playing someone like Guard or Eldar, something that's got lots of small little units, they can end up with so many blood tithe points so quickly that every unit's got a feel no pain, extra attacks, extra AP, including Angron.
Angron gets
come back all the time.
Angron had the 6-up feel no pain last night as well, yeah.
But then against other armies, like for example Knights or Custodes, if you're fighting Knights, it's actually quite hard to bring him back. Because you killed a knight. Oh, brilliant! You got 2 blood tithe points, then, mate. Killed 3 more. Oh, wait, you got to table them before you get enough points to bring Angron back.
Yeah, but well, whatever. These is a cool mechanic. Don't get me wrong. I actually thought it was really cool, but it just felt like in our game, he had like 40. So he was able to revive Angron like 3 times. He was able to take 2 of these bigger buffs. He took the 6-up, feel no pain. He took a +1 to charge, and then. The third part of this is there's a secondary where every time you sacrifice a blood tithe point, you get 2 victory points. He was able to max that on 15 victory points as well. So he was able to throw away 8 blood tithe points on top of reviving Angron 3 times and picking 2 powers, and then throw away 8 of the points. And then I think he still had like 6 points left at the end of the game. He's like, the fuck did I even need these for?
I have to say, I love the mechanic. It's incredibly fluffy. But it feels wildly unbalanced into certain armies. And like I'm saying earlier, if you're into Knights, it's not unbalanced at all. It's quite hard to get enough to do anything with them. If you're into someone with a lot of models, or if you're one that's built around, I'm going to bring loads of shit and get it all killed to power up the rest of my Khorne Berserkers into murdering you all. It's a really difficult army to play against. And this is what I was saying earlier. You can build and play it in such a way to be really powerful. If you want and if you're good.
Yeah, no, I was I thought it was a cool mechanic. So this is blood tithe points in a nutshell, and it's a strong mechanic. You're gonna have to be super aware of it because it's super powerful.
Fair enough. Next.
Yes. I think we look at some units. So here's Angron, and this is what I was telling you. So when he comes back with 8 wounds remaining, which is what you revive him with, he still has a 12-inch move. He still has strength 9 plus 5 for his big sword, or just strength 9 on his small sword. Remember, when he charges, he gets that +1 attack and +1 strength from Khorne, which makes his big sword strength 15, and his little attack strength 10. So he's still hitting you with strength 10. 11 attacks, he sweeps, so it's 33 strength 10 hits, hitting on 2s. Remember, he can also take that blood tithe, so he's bursting 6s. And he, I mean, you man not to revive him every turn if you can, right? Every time he dies, just revive him. Sorry, was someone going to say something?
No.
I'm trying to think of how you deal with this, because you can't tar pit him, because with that number of attacks, any kind of tar pit that you try and use is just going to chew through. And if you think, right, I'm going to tar pit him with heavy intercessors, well, then he'll just use his smash attack and kill them all in the head anyway. 10 attacks is plenty to wipe a squad of 5.
Exactly.
The thing is, I wonder if your best bet with this guy is to just degrade him down to sort of 1 to 5 wounds remaining and then leave him there. I know he's still got 8 attacks and an 8-inch move, but maybe 8 attacks isn't quite enough to chew through. I think maybe that's your thing. You weaken him with down as low as you can.
To gauge the amount of damage done to him.
You want to weaken him enough, accurately, but not kill him.
That's the best strategy I've ever heard, actually, yeah.
And then chuck Angel Sacrifice at him every turn.
Yeah, maybe. But I think So having played this army last night, what I noticed though was so many things have so many attacks. Like, let's just have a look at Khorne. Khorne now has 9 attacks, right? So again, he charges, that's 10 attacks. So like, Khorne is not a lot of points. He's got 10 attacks. They're strength 6. If he charges at strength 7, they're -4, they're 3 damage, and bear in mind he can also benefit from those bursting 6s, he can benefit from the extra AP. It's insane.
Does he get the +1 strength?
Yeah, all World Eaters get the +1 strength, +1 attack when they charge.
Smacking you at strength 7, damage 3, AP -4, 10 attacks. Does he still kill all his mates if you're nearby?
At the bottom it says...
Yes, he does. Excellent.
But only if he's your Warlord.
No. This is the Betrayer. At the end of the fight phase, if there are any other friendly units within 3 inches of this model, roll 1d6. On a 1, select one of those units. That unit suffers 2 mortal wounds. It's not quite as good as it used to be, which was any attacks he had left over after killing everything in front of him, you had to put into your own unit. Which I've always loved.
But yeah, so my experience was... I think I have a picture of the next character on the next slide as well. The Lord... Oh, maybe I don't. But I've got... Let's talk about the 8-bound and the Exalted 8-bound for a second as well, because they're the new units, right? And they are crazy. The Exalted 8-bound...
They're like veterans, are they? They're like Demon Host veterans or something.
They're kind of more like... One of the weird omissions from this is they didn't get the Red Butchers, which everyone was expecting, which are the unique World Eater Terminators. But instead of that, you got these kind of 8-bound and then the Exalted 8-bound. They're kind of like, if in stats wise, they're probably closest to Centurions.
Okay.
They are massive models. They're expensive in points each, but they're very tough. They've got a lot of wounds. They've got a lot of attacks, and they hit like absolute monsters. But they're quite limited in numbers. You can't be running a lot of them, and they've got no shooting output at all, I don't think.
Yeah, so if we start with the standard 8-bound, right? They are very much like Centurions, Mark, but they are moving 9. They're strength 6, they're toughness 5, and they're 3 wounds. Again, they have a ridiculous amount of attacks. Remember, they get +1 attack on the charge and +1 strength. So basically, like, if they're hitting you with the chain glavies, for example, they're going to be strength 8, they're going to be -3, and they're going to make almost 10 attacks per regular guy. Well, the regular guy's going to make 10 attacks, the sergeant's going to make 12. So, I mean, against Marines, that's just chewing through Marines, like left, right, and centre. These are -3. I mean, you're not saving this shit, right? Like, so a squad of like 5 of these guys is doing 52 attacks to you at -3.
On the flip side, toughness 5, 3 wounds,
Centurion bro.
Save 5 up invuln is not. They're not difficult to kill.
No.
I mean,
not really.
Not overly, I guess, but I mean, there's still
modifier if you had to, quite happily.
Enough of it, yeah. Probably not enough that Blood Angels run. If we look at the Exalted 8-bound, the difference is the 8-bound are core, the Exalted ones are not core, but the Exalted ones have a better invulnerable save. They're saving on a 4. They have basically chain fists. So an 8-bound chain fist will be strength 9 with a +1 on the charge. That's a strength 10. It's going to be -4. It's 2 damage this time. And then they have a weapon skill of 2 up. So they're basically hitting you on... They don't have core, so... Because Brett was keen to point out at me, it's like, they're not core. And I was like, all right, cool, they've got chain fists, so they're hitting me at -1 then. And he was like, oh no, they don't have to take the -1. And I was like, oh, okay, so them not being core actually doesn't really matter, does it? So it's like... A standard model, the Sergeant is getting 6, strength 10, -4, 2 damage. The regular guys are getting 5, strength 10, -4, 2 damage. Again, Marines aren't even getting to roll a save against -4, so if you're worried...
They're breaching, yeah.
If you're worried...
Very, very powerful. They're very expensive in points, though.
But I suppose the one thing we should also say is that if this unit is within 6... excluding vehicles, on a 4-up, you're not allowed to fall back from the Exalted 8-bound, so like they can basically keep you in combat. And then the regular 8-bound have that blood scent rule, which means they can start the battle in strategic reserve, but the battle round is 1 higher, which means they can be set up on the battlefield during the first battle round. So they are
Not
coming
anywhere, but they can come in. Yeah,
they can come in no man's land and make a 9-inch charge, I guess. Turn one.
They're quite easy to boost their movement as well. I don't know if you've got the sheet for the Lord Invocators.
I do, but I don't think you. Maybe I don't, but you wouldn't be able to boost them if they're in strategic reserve.
does that kick off during the command phase? Is it?
It kicks off in the first battle round, and it makes that unit faster for the entire game. So he basically gets to give the Wrath of Baal like +2 movement to 2 core units within 9 inches of them at the start of the game, and they keep that for the whole game. So it's like a targeted Wrath of Baal. Cool. So next up, Berserkers. We know what Berserkers do. They don't fight twice anymore, so that's nice. But they do have a boatload of attacks now, right? In that, like, I think that you're looking at like 6 because the +1 and 5. So 5 of these guys, you're looking at like around 26 attacks. And anytime you shoot them, this is the new Blood Surge rule. Anytime you shoot them and kill a model, they get to roll a d6, and that's how far they move towards the closest nearest model. So if you shoot them and kill one, they roll d6. Shoot them and kill another, they can roll d6 again.
If it was me, I would be running max squad size units of Khorne Berserkers, sticking them up the front there with Angry Ron and saying, "Come on, have at me," because every time you shoot, I'm going to get a bit closer.
It's worth noting
this image doesn't show. They're still troops, are they?
The Berserkers are indeed your troops, so they are OBSEC, and it's worth noting that it says there. When you roll the d6, each model can be moved in a distance up to this inches, but must finish close to the enemy unit. This unit cannot end the move with an engagement range of enemy units other than the closest enemy unit. But that does mean that you can end up basically engaging. So if you kill... So what I did last night...
count as charging, though.
I killed one of them, and then he rolled a d6 and just piled in. So as Blood Angels, I don't count as charging, so I actually lose more than he does. And he gets to fight before me because I didn't charge him, right?
Yeah, it's your turn. I also like the fact they're giving them strength 5 as well, because the mark of Khorne was always +1 strength, not +1 attack. That was the mark of Slanesh. So the fact they're strength 5, then they'll get their extra bonus point of strength on the charge, means that they're smacking you in the face with strength 6 axes, which is pretty wicked.
The Viscerator here is also huge, right? Because the Viscerator is strength 9 now with your charge bonus. And it's 5 attacks. Again, there's no minuses to hit with the Eviscerator, so expect to lose people left, right, and centre to that -4 Eviscerator as well. They combat so hard, this army. Like I walked away from the game trying to like look at the game objectively and go like, all right, how could I have won this game? And I was just drawing blanks because I was like, every unit he's got is going to do more damage in melee combat than mine, and I have to trade. And I don't really. I have arguably.
I'm just going to vomit for a second after that trading comment. But yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, I know you hate trading. But I have more shooting in my army than most Blood Angels players, right? Like I'm running a Baal Predator, not a Baal Predator. Sorry, I'm running a Gladiator Reaper. I'm running a Terrax Siege Drill. I'm running a Vanguard Veteran Squad with all multi meltas and combi plasmas, right? Like I have like 400 or 500 points of shooting, and I was just like, I don't know.
Do they have a fight on death strat?
Yes, and it's 1 CP on core units. So Berserkers can fight on death for 1 CP. Terminators can fight on death for 1 CP, but the 8 bound, I believe, it would be 2. But maybe not.
Is that limited to the size of the unit, or is that?
I think I might have strats on the next slides.
Okay.
But I might not have included that one. I guess let's put forward and see what we've got. I did include Lord Invicticatus. Yeah. Cool. This guy's a fucking disaster. I hated him.
I reckon, having seen what I've seen, he seems like
this is like
this is the best HQ choice.
Right.
It's the new special character they've made.
So let me tell you his rules, and then let me tell you something that you'll like, right? So he moves 12, so he flies, right? He's toughness 6, 8 wounds, 2 up, 4 up.
He's like, the Silver Surfer? Think that for Angron. He's like Angron's Silver Surfer Herald.
So he's hitting on 2s. He's
got a magic cloud walking juggernaut.
7 attacks. So when he's charging, that's 8 attacks. So 8 attacks, strength 7, -3, 2 damage, no invulnerable saves. Right? So like this guy chewed Gilliman up Like he took 8 wounds off Guilliman in one turn because I can't roll. I'm saving on 5s with Guilliman because there's no invulnerables. After that, he then makes 3 attacks with his Juggernaut. Cool. They're also strength 7. And then this is what we were talking about in his Warlord trait at the start of the first battle round. It's like 2 World Eater cores. They can make a pre-game move now. And then his aura is, while his Warlord is within 6, you get the Wrath of Baal. Maybe I got that slightly wrong when I was explaining it before, that's what he has.
But it means that you can fairly tightly get a turn 1 charge off with your 8 bound if you've got this
your
fella.
8 bound have a 9-inch move, right? So they can move 9, and then I guess if you daisy chain one of them back to within his aura, then they'll move 11.
Yeah. Well, they'll move 11 for the pre-game.
I think that might not stack. I imagined it would.
No reason why not.
It stack?
Oh, that's true. Okay, all right. So your 8 bound can make 2 11-inch moves. I thought they would have to make a 9 and then an 11.
22
make an 11 and then a 9.
Well, no, because you pre-game move them your 11.
But you keep one with his 6.
Turn 1 comes along.
You then move the
Invocatus up because he can move 12,
so they can go 11,
and then you do them again.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. All right, so you get 22-inch move on 2 of those 8 bound. I mean, why would you reserve them when you can just do 22-inch move on 2 of them like that? But here's the thing, right? Like, so his auras are amazing. We can agree that his combat is amazing, right? Because it's like it's 8 attacks, -3, no invuns, and then it's 3 attacks, -2, 1. Guess how many points he is? 5 points cheaper than Dante. How do you feel about that?
I feel that when we discussed doing this, I said maybe we should not make this into a complete salty shit show about how much better these are in a power creep scope than Blood Angels.
Okay. Oh, okay. Then he's totally balanced with Dante. Let's move on.
I think this is probably
you're not
the
wrong.
best.
You're not wrong in the slightest.
Yeah. I reckon this is the best HQ choice for the World Eaters Codex.
Yeah, I think he's awesome. He's awesome. He's a monster, and the fact his Juggernaut flies, I mean...
The fucking flying Juggernaut.
I don't really know why he's flying Juggernaut.
I love it. The fluff for him is just fantastic. It's so silly that... And that's what I feel about this whole army. It's everything I love about 40k, and that it's ridiculous and over the top and silly.
My first thought of this army was I was disappointed that you can't have an army full of Juggernaut charging cavalry.
That's going to be the 10th edition version of this book.
Wouldn't shock me. And I love that. That'd be awesome.
That's such a miss that they clearly are going to be in the second wave of World Eaters releases. It'll be a Juggernaut cavalry, probably some form of jump pack ones because they were famous for their use of jump packs as well. You know what I mean? That's like when the Sisters 8th edition Codex come out and was like, where's all these units? And then 6 months later, there they are.
They did the second wave, which is also inevitably coming for Votan as well, I'm sure, soon.
Absolutely. This is almost like a get you going.
I put the points cost down if you want to look at it. 8 bound or 40 points per model. Exalted 8 bound, 135 for 3. You can still take a Hellbrute. They're quite cheap now. I guess 100 points, 110 with the multi-melta.
Yeah.
I think they're a pretty good choice at the moment because you do need a little bit of fire support.
You do. Helldrakes we never really see, but 165 points. And then Berserkers in it.
As well.
I was going to say the Hellbrute. The Berserkers in at 22 points per model. I mean, they're the bread and butter of the list. Like,
they absolutely should be, shouldn't they?
Yeah. And the Terminators are not too bad either. Honestly, the World Eater Terminator squad. They've now got 3 wounds. There's a strat I believe you can pay that makes the Terminators +1 damage. I think I've got strats on the next
They've
page.
turned the Red Butchers into a strat.
Yeah.
Which basically you can play every turn on your Terminator squad to make them a bit better. But it's another one that's missing. It's obvious in its missingness, if that makes sense. They are such an iconic unit for the World Eaters. That's wave 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Strats on the next page, and I think that's the last of it. So I didn't put down all the strats.
Oh, that's so disconcertingly annoying.
What?
Wait.
There's 6 mouse icons on this page.
Oh my Jesus Christ.
Ah.
I mean, I put a lot of slides together this week. I guess this was the last one. I was tired, probably. Yeah, so some of these are for... I didn't realise this until today. Some of the strats can only be used on that Angry Ron list with the Chaos Demons. Yeah. Some of the strats can only be used on the World Eaters ones. Really, if you were just building a World Eaters army, you only get access to 8 strats.
That's the Disciples of the Red Angel versus World Eaters.
Yeah, you've got 8 strats for the World Eaters, and you've got 8 strats for the Disciples of the Red Angel. There's only 8 of them. They're all relatively impactful, and there's only 8. And I think that's brilliant. People are like, oh, it's not much stuff in it. No, this is what I want from all future codexes. I want a handful of impactful strats, and that's it. You know, it's the same they've done. You got relics and warlord traits coming up, John.
I didn't. I figured this was just a.
There's almost no point in having them because there's very few relics of warlord. I think 2 or 3. You know,
I think it was 3 of both. Yeah.
But you're never going to, because you're going to take one of the special characters. You can build a guy, but this is one of the sad things about these guys is they really are their special character. But there's no gotchas in this. You've got these 8. You need to learn your 8 strats. You haven't got 20 odd strats. They're all weird thing meat. You've got a couple of warlord traits. You've got a couple of relics. All the rules are together, and everything you need to know about the armies in 5 pages, and you can move on. It's so much better than some of the ridiculous looking at you Chaos Space Marines and Eldari codexes, or Space Marine Codex.
And I was going to say, I think the main things to take away from it is that they can fight on death, and it's 1 CP for a core unit, which, when you're fighting them with a melee army, makes it very difficult. They can give +1 damage through the Red Butchers, and they can also do the top right one. They can do a Heroic Intervention on core units again. So they're Heroic Intervening 6, they're fighting on death, and then they're also adding +1 damage. And I think what Tony said hits the nail on the head 100%. Like, they're just all really good strats. There's not pages that you need to learn and then never use. And I would love that if that's the way it's going to go forward. Yeah. As someone I'm very apprehensive when I hear people saying about removing complexity from the game, but I don't think...
Yeah, I agree, because I'm really worried in that GW have a history of massively overcompensating when they try and
all of the fun out,
put something down. Yeah.
Rather than just trimming it a little bit.
So if this is the future, if this is what it's trimmed to, and it's just like Blood Angels just had 8 brilliant strats, because I don't even think I ever use more than 8. So just find the 8, hone them, make them worth it, and then that's all it needs to be.
8 brilliant strats for Space Marines, and then just an extra 4 for Blood Angels.
Yeah, could be. I didn't go into the whole book because all I had was some pictures of it, because obviously I didn't get the book because supply issues. But I guess all World Eaters as a whole, you have to be so aware, like, they're doing so much damage. In melee, they're going to trade you almost every time, and even if you go first, because they're fight on death. And that's it. I mean, I don't think I had a single combat that lasted more than 1 round. I think the only squad that lasted more than 1 round against the World Eaters was my Terminators with Storm Shields. Everything else died the second the combat started.
Does the fight on death, is that locked to what World Eaters or Disciples of Red Angel?
You do that on the World Eaters, so I guess you maybe don't do that in Angry Ron's list.
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to think how you play into this, because if you're playing a melee army like Blood Angels, the only thing I can think of is you have to smack them before they smack you, which is easy.
That's exactly where I'm going with this. It's about the alpha strike.
If you shoot them, you're going to make them closer to you because you ain't got enough to finish it off. You need to be wiping out units in combat completely.
There's a lot about this moment that feels about the strike and not getting bogged down in a fight. Just a strike from safety and hoping that it's a killing strike, and just don't get tied down into a dragged out fight.
Because like those berserker things like that, for a good example, or the 8 bounty, actually probably a better example. They hit like an absolute monster, but a unit Sanguinary Guard will wipe that squad without too much trouble on the charge.
I mean, you'll wipe them, but then they'll pay 1 CP and fight on death. So
yeah, they can only
lose
play
your
1 CP once, can't they? And if they're playing, as we think, with Angry Ron, they can't do that at all. I'm speculating a little bit, but I don't see another way of doing it. I think you're going to have to start playing it like, I need to bait you into a killing zone and wipe out whole units before you get to hit me back. Yeah.
My experience last night was in one of the fights. It was like 3 charges were made, so he's going to fight on death in one place. He's going to interrupt in the other place, and then, I've lost just as much as him, and I was the aggressor. And then
I almost think that this is an example of when, because you know how I'm a massive proponent of a balanced list.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think you don't want a balanced list here. I think you just want to smack them in the face. This is the time when you actually do want to go, fuck it, I'm bringing all jump packs and I'm going to smack you harder than and I'm going to take out whole units, and you just go full, fuck it, we're having a massive scrap in the middle of this board. Because if you bring half-arse it, like you've got some shooting, you're not going to kill anything with that, but you are going to piss it off and move it closer to you. And if you've not got enough sheer fighting power, then you're going to take a chunk out of it, but then lose that whole chunk of your army in return.
And you want to be careful with where you target with your whirlwind, because the unit you shoot with that can't be selected to interrupt, which will also give you a little bit of a helping hand as well.
Yeah, that's going to be really important, your whirlwind, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Fight last or not being able to counter offensive will.
Did Brett have any suggestions for how to play against him?
I was actually just checking my phone. He got beat by Iron Hands tonight, so I actually thought he would beat the Iron Hands. He got trounced like 85-42.
You going to go back and watch the battle?
I mean, Iron Hands are obnoxious with how much they shoot, but I will have a look at it. Yeah. I guess if you're able to wipe, well, I mean, I guess the proof's in the pudding there. If you're able to wipe out the full units before they get into melee combat with you, and maybe the Iron Hands list is really janky as well, because he's got 3 of the gladiators. No, he's got 4 gladiators, and remember, gladiators have that pulse that makes them -2 to charge, which doesn't come up all that often, but I guess used right. If you sit your gladiators 15 inches away and then they move forward 9, and then you make the -2 to charge, and then you overwatch with Iron Hands can overwatch on 4s as well. So yeah, maybe you need to see exactly what they were doing.
How can Iron Hands overwatch on 4s?
Because they're using an 8th edition codex and they have a strat that lets them overwatch on 4s. And they also reroll 1s because they're Iron Hands and they reroll heavies on 1s. So yeah, like last week I charged a Devastator squad with Blade Guard, and I even transhumed my Devastator squad, and I lost like the whole fucking squad to Iron Hands Overwatch. They just have a strat that says when they shoot Overwatch they get to use 4s.
Fuck.
Trust me, I've hated Iron Hands since 8th edition. They suck.
Dicks.
Yeah.
Well, dear.
If they get to stay in Devastator Doctrine, their AP is obnoxious. So I mean, that's the way it is, I guess.
Wow.
I don't think it's 2 CP maybe to Overwatch.
1 CP. Use this strat in your opponent's charge phase when an Iron Hands unit from Army fires Overwatch. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an Overwatch attack made by modeling that unit, a hit roll of 5 or 6 scores a hit. If that unit has the Flesh is Weak chapter tactic, when resolving an Overwatch attack made by modeling the unit, a hit of 4+ scores a hit instead.
Yeah, everything will have Flesh is Weak. So yeah, on those tanks with 40 shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hits.
CP. Fucking hell. I suppose you've got to pay for the Overwatch as well, but still.
Yeah. I mean, 1 CP to do it'll wipe the whole. It would wipe the whole. It would wipe the whole Berserker squad before they charge, and then if he pays 1 CP to make them -2 to charge, maybe 1 or 2 guys live, but it's fine. They kill. They don't make the charge in. But I actually thought the World Eaters would be Iron Hands. Maybe Iron Hands are that good right now. Who knows? That's it, though. That is a nutshell of World Eaters.
I think the jury's out a little bit on whether World Eaters are going to be awesome or not so awesome. I do think they're going to be really strong into some armies and a lot weaker into others, which I don't like.
Which we are as well, yes.
It makes them a gatekeeper list rather than a tournament winning list.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless they get a really lucky run of opponents in a tournament, they're unlikely to be clearing them up.
Being a gatekeeper means that people who are intending to win tournaments probably won't run them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't really want to fight them again after last night, so yeah, perfect.
Well, tough. You need to pull your finger out and play them a few more times so you can work out how to do it. So the rest of us can find out or figure it out.
I think my main mistake was trying to kill Angron 3 times. I think the strategy you said, Tony, put him down to his lowest bracket and then
it's your first
try and
game
ignore
against
him.
him. You've got to give some shit a try just to see how it's going to work out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I expected him to be able to use those blood tithe points to revive him once. I wasn't expecting him to just be swimming in the points where you can revive him over and over and over.
They FAQ that and say this stratagem, whatever the fuck it's called, can only be used once.
I do think that would be more balanced.
Because it doesn't make any sense. I know his whole shtick is that he's the healer or whatever, and he comes back. But it also clearly says about it's like 8 weeks and 8 days and 8 minutes, and it ain't fucking instantly.
Either that, or they have to change the generation rate. That's be the other way of doing it.
Yeah, that's another issue because, like I say, into some armies they're going to generate way too quickly, and into other armies they're not going to generate at all. And that's not useful when you're building your own army, is it?
Yeah.
No, so you're probably right. There will be a gatekeeper list because if they run into knights, that's 3 big knights, they're going to have no points, so they're not going to be able to do any fancy shenanigans. Yeah, so it is what it is, I guess. I guess Blood Angels is probably a bad matchup into World Eaters, but you're always going to have bad matchups, right? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
the trick is knowing how they're bad and just practice.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make a tweet my list. I have figured out my tournament list, and I'm going to tweak my list based on the game against World Eaters. So
excellent,
as it is. So cool. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
Cheers, everybody. Hope you probably might have got something out of it. I think we got something out of it.
Yeah, you got
something anyway. Don't know what it is.
Yeah,
we got a new subscriber in that this person who's watching the video right now is going to click subscribe. That's what we got. That person right there. Do you see him? That's a new subscriber.
Wicked. Hello.
Hello.
Nice
Welcome.
I don't know what to say to that, so I'm just going to say thanks for watching, everybody.
Just lick your lips and look into the camera for a while until it gets really uncomfortable, and then we'll end the video.
Good night. We'll catch you the next
and
one.
on that bombshell.